I'm going to make a virtual copy of this again, Command apostrophe. And yeah, this looks tough. It does. It looks really bad, but believe it or not, Lightroom can do a pretty good job on this. And this is fairly easy. We're going to bring the highlights all the way down and the shadows all the way up, and bring the brightness, the exposure down, and then add some texture, some clarity, some dehaze, some vibrance, some saturation. And you can see already we've made quite the effect. We just went from there to there just by moving those sliders. Now, I should have gotten rid of this thing first. I was actually riding in a cable car when I took this, so I caught a little bit of the door. So let's see if Lightroom can get rid of that. We'll use the generative AI on this. And let's just drag across that and get the bottom. And I don't know why it decided to take up here. So I'm going to tell it subtract. I don't want it to mess with all the way over there. You need to have a little extra though, because the software needs to know what's around it to figure out what to add. So let's click on remove there and see if we can get rid of that little bit of door without hurting anything else. And well, that's wrong. That's okay. Yep, I think 2 is the winner, so we can live with that. Okay. All right, the mountains and the clouds. All right, let's try sky again in our masking panel and see what it gives us. And it did a pretty good job of selecting the clouds. So let's go with this. I'm going to go right to dehaze on this. And wow, look at that. That's pretty cool. All right, that's a good start. The mountains, however, need help. We need to be able to bring those out. So let's finish this. I'm going to add a little contrast, brighten those clouds just a smidge. We may have to go in with our brush, but before we do that, let's take a look at Lightroom's newest mask, and that's landscape. So if we click on landscape, it will take a look at the image and see what it can figure out. So it says sky, mountains, so that was a fail. That's what it thinks the mountains are. And vegetation. Yeah, no, it's not a help. So we're going to just use a brush. It's okay. And let's go in and select all these peaks. I'm after the rocks mostly here. I got a little bit of sky in there. That's okay. Hold down the Alt to turn it to a minus and get the sky out of the selection. All right, now we're going to go to our texture clarity, dehaze, and then brighten the entire thing up. All right, let's hit enter on that, and let's zoom in and see what we got. And yeah, look at these peaks. Look at that. The sun coming through. That looks actually pretty darn great. We have some composition and color issues though. And let's look at this. What's going on compositionally that we can make this stronger? First of all, we have the opening in between the trees at the bottom. It's dead center. The mountain is dead center. Now these clouds over here are great. These are somewhat less important. So this needs a crop. We need to crop this thing to add better composition to it. So let's hit the R key, which of course R is crop. And let's bring this in from the left. And I'm seeing that now we're getting close to 16 by 9, aren't we? But since 16 by 9 frames are hard to find, they do exist. But let's go to 11 by 17 because that's pretty close. Oh, look at that. We were exactly 11 by 17 just by luck. So, okay, we have an 11 by 17. Wonderful. Let's hit the crop again. Let's come in from the bottom a smidge and down from the top. Because each time we do this crop, what's happening? The mountain, which is the primary subject, is taking up more of the image. It's bigger. Now, there's also a little distraction. This green looks kind of supernatural. Honestly, it really is this color. But we're going to make believe it's too much. Or it is too much because it's drawing away from in here. We're going to do another thing to enhance that. But for this, we're going to use the color mixer. So let's go down to color mixer and grab the eyedropper and go select this green down in the grass. And here it is. And you can see it's a little to the yellow. I am going to make it a little green, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the saturation out of it and darken it a smidge. Just luminance down, saturation down, just so that it doesn't quite draw your eye quite as strongly. Maybe even bring the luminance down a little more. I'm going to make it dark, like it's not getting as much sun as the rest of the mountain. Yeah, that's better. Okay. What's next? Notice the clouds up here are kind of blue. They're kind of neutral over here. But the mountain, we had dealt with the mountain before. Where's our mountain? Is this it? Yeah, here's our mountain. Here, we already created a mask for it. I think it needs to be separated out from the background. And since we've got blue in the clouds, we're going to go the other way with the mountain. We're going to add yellow to the mountain, add warmth to it. And you can see that's what we're dealing with there. But I don't want that much. I just want a little bit. But I'm going to increase the saturation while we're at it. Now you can see it's starting to come to life. I'm going to hit K again. We're going to see these brighter areas. I'm selecting the brighter areas that really were brighter because the sun was hitting it. And we're going to add some light to that. So let's bring up the exposure a bit. Again, this is going to help the eye get to the scene. And while we're at it, strangely enough, I'm going to add some more clarity and some more dehaze. And now some more light. Because again, I want to draw the eye to here. Now, that's good, but we still have this up here, these clouds. Yes, they were that bright, but they're drawing our eye. So I just want to make them a little less white by bringing the whites down. Let's just darken them a little bit. And I think we're in pretty good shape. Let's add a vignette. We'll add that same vignette under Effects. We'll choose about -10 on that one. Oh, and one other thing we haven't done yet, and that's under Detail. We haven't done any sharpening. We haven't done any denoise. Let's zoom in on this thing at 100%. Is there really any noise in this shot? There's a little bit up in the clouds. I can see a little bit of grain up in here. So let's run denoise. Because Lightroom's denoise has gotten absolutely amazing. Oh, and I don't know if you've read what's going on with Adobe. There's a new version of Photoshop about to drop. It's in beta right now. That is adding some of Topaz's filters. They're super res and denoise and stuff like that. They're going to be incorporating into the Adobe products. Okay. Actually, that did an amazing job. Let's zoom in. Now, 200% is cheating, but let's look at it at 200 or 300% just to see what it did. So we'll look up in the sky. I'll turn the denoise off. Oh yeah, see how noisy it is? Again, that's 300%. Doesn't really mean anything, but you can see how nice a job the denoise does. And also sharpening. I want to sharpen these fine details, so I'm going to bring this way up. However, you can't really see what you're doing when you do this. So what we need to do is use the masking slider, which you also can't see what it's doing. What you need to do is hold down the Alt key, then click on the masking slider, and everything turns white. That means everything's getting masked equally. As we drag over to the right, anything that is white gets sharpened, anything that is black is left alone. Because you don't want to sharpen clouds, at least the big, broad white parts of it, because it's just going to add more noise. So something like that, and I think we're in pretty good shape. So let's again take a look, full screen. Here's the raw file we started with, and we turned it into that. So it's quite the dramatic difference. Oh, and if anyone's curious, by the way, this is Grindelwald, Switzerland. Incredible place if you ever get a chance. Oop, I didn't want to go back into 300%. Let's get out of here. Well, we can look at it at 100%. You can see, look at all the details as the sun broke through the clouds. This is actually near sunset. Stunning place.